The vibe around Philadelphia has been intense this week, and it feels like the city has been holding its breath while waiting for this Black Friday showdown against Chicago. The loss to Dallas hit hard, not just because of the score, but because of how everything unfolded. On the field, it left the entire team under a microscope. From the coaching staff trying to answer for their decisions all the way down to players who suddenly had their roles questioned. And with the season reaching that point where every snap matters, the pressure has never felt heavier. Now the Eagles step into a matchup they absolutely cannot afford to take lightly, especially with Chicago playing some of their best football of the year and fighting for their own postseason chances. For Philly, this is the kind of moment where you either respond or you crumble. One of the biggest storylines this week has been that chaos at punt returner, a spot that has felt like a revolving door ever since the fumble disaster at the 1-yard line. That play alone was enough to shake any coach's confidence, and then to make matters worse, the injury that followed took away any remaining margin for hesitation, with the previous returner sidelined and missing every practice so far. The Eagles have been pushed into making a move they probably should have made weeks ago. Instead of cycling back to early season experiments that never clicked, it finally looks like they are ready to lean into Britton Covey again, and honestly, that feels like the most obvious solution possible. When you have someone who has consistently been one of the best return specialists in the league, someone who has led the entire NFL in punt return yards and stayed near the top in return average, it should not take an emergency to get him back onto the field. His shiftiness, his vision, the way he turns broken plays into field-flipping momentum swings, that is exactly what this team needs right now, especially when the offense has been sputtering. And when he showed up to practice, wearing his old number and then officially got elevated to the active roster, it finally felt like the Eagles were doing something that aligned with common sense. It sure looks like Friday will be his stage again. But that is not the only change this team has already tested during the loss to Dallas. The secondary was thrown into shuffle mode the second Adoree Jackson left the field to be checked for a potential concussion. Suddenly, Cooper DeJean was kicked out to the boundary while Michael Carter slid into the slot. The matchup was brutal. The receivers on the other side were elite, and yeah, Cooper gave up a few plays, but he also battled on every snap. He did not look lost. He did not look overwhelmed. He just got beat a few times by great route runners who make almost everyone in this league look bad at some point. The encouraging part is that he stayed in phase and competed. Even so, the Eagles would much rather keep him inside where his instincts shine, and they should be able to do exactly that because the scare with Adoree turned out to be just that, a scare. He never actually had a concussion. He has been practicing fully, and barring something unexpected, he is going to be ready for Chicago. That alone should stabilize the entire back end against the Bears offense. That can light up the scoreboard in a hurry. And speaking of that Bears offense, this challenge is no joke. Caleb Williams has settled in. Their run game has been electric, and the weapons around him have stepped up. They sit near the top of the league in rushing. They move the ball consistently, and they score in bunches. It is the fourth straight game where the Eagles face a high-powered unit with multiple ways to hurt you. The encouraging thing for Philly is that even with the ups and downs, the defense has been trending in the right direction. They held their own against Green Bay, Detroit, and even Dallas for stretches, proving that this group knows how to rise to the moment. If they can get pressure, stay disciplined, and avoid the coverage busts that have cost them earlier in the season, they absolutely can slow Chicago down. The injury updates on that side of the ball have carried a lot more good than bad. Reed Blankenship practicing and trending toward playing is huge. He is one of the most underrated pieces of this defense, always around the ball, always communicating. Brandon Graham being back on the field after dealing with a groin issue is another boost, especially with how much leadership and spark he brings. But the tough news is losing Andrew Mukuba, whose fractured ankle most likely ends his season. That pushes Sidney Brown into a full-time role, something fans have been nervous about. His style is aggressive, chaotic, explosive, but sometimes too explosive for his own good. He has had trouble staying under control, missing tackles, and playing with the pacing needed at safety in this scheme. But to his credit, he has not run from any of that. He talked openly this week about needing to slow down, trust his technique, and stop forcing big hits that are not there. His energy can be his greatest gift or his biggest flaw. If he can channel it instead of letting it spill over, he has the perfect opportunity to prove himself. Hearing him talk about staying calm, playing within the system, and embracing the reps he is finally getting was exactly what the fanbase needed to hear. Now he just has to turn those words into production. The emotional layer gets even thicker when you look at how many familiar faces will be wearing Chicago colors on Friday. Adree Swift returning to Philadelphia for the first time since his breakout year here brings a whole extra level of intrigue. So does the return of wide receiver Olamide Zach O's. And then you look deeper, Kevin Byard playing some of the best football he has played in years, building off a season where he racked up a career high in tackles, or TJ Edwards continuing to do exactly what he always did in Philly, flying around and making plays whenever he is healthy enough to suit up. And of course, there is CJ Gardner-Johnson, someone who will always be connected to this fanbase because of how electric he was during that Super Bowl run. He has been a spark plug for Chicago's defense ever since he got there, already racking up sacks, forcing turnovers, and bringing that trademark swagger that instantly changes a locker room. All of these familiar faces make this matchup feel bigger than just another conference game, because both sides know each other well and both sides have something to prove. Chicago's defense might not dominate the stat sheet in yards allowed, but they hunt the ball like few other teams in the league. They are number one in creating takeaways, and that alone makes them dangerous. The Eagles, who have done a great job protecting the ball this season, have to keep that discipline intact because one careless moment could swing this game. And the challenge gets even steeper when you consider who Chicago might be getting back. Their top corner, Jalen Johnson, could return. Their slot defender, Kyler Gordon, could also be activated. Meanwhile, their linebacker room is beaten up, which might soften the middle a bit. But that secondary could be the toughest version Philly has faced in weeks. Then comes the twist nobody saw coming. Devonta Smith's sudden appearance on the injury report. He has been the steadiest, most reliable part of this passing attack all season. And to see him not practicing on Tuesday was one thing, but missing Wednesday as well on a short week is a bad sign. History suggests that when an Eagles player misses the first two practices of a condensed week, he does not play, and losing him in a matchup where spacing, timing, and strong hands are so crucial would be a massive blow. It forces even more weight onto A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert, and it demands that someone else steps up in a way they have not consistently managed this year. The ripple effect of losing Devonta Smith stretches far beyond just removing a dependable route runner from the formation. His presence shapes the way defenses rotate, how safeties shade their leverage, and how coordinators script their coverages. Without him out there pulling attention away, everything tightens. The windows shrink, the margins for error get razor thin, and the offense suddenly has to work twice as hard to generate the same amount of space. It changes how often the Eagles can threaten the deep areas, how much they can stress the intermediate zones, and how creative they need to be with motion and alignment. It forces the quarterback to make tougher decisions, and it forces the play caller to adjust to a reality where one of the smoothest separators in football may not be able to take a single snap. And in a week where the offense already feels like it is searching for rhythm, losing that security blanket makes this matchup even more complicated. There is also the emotional layer of this moment. Devonta has been the guy who shows up, keeps his head down, and handles his business with consistency. Even when the offense around him has been up and down, when he goes down, it stings. It's the kind of thing that can rattle an offense unless someone in that receiver room decides to take ownership of the void. The Eagles desperately need someone to answer that call. They need someone to become that secondary weapon who can punish single coverage, who can win the 50-50 throws, who can turn a routine slant into a chain-moving play. And with the Bears being so aggressive in pursuit of turnovers, every catch, every step, and every decision matters. That is the kind of pressure that can either elevate a player or expose him. And the Eagles are about to find out who is ready for the moment. Meanwhile, one of the storylines that keeps resurfacing is how crucial ball security becomes against this particular Chicago defense. This is not the type of unit that wins by suffocating drives. This is the type that thrives on chaos. They punch at the football on every tackle. They jump routes with confidence. And they attack the quarterback with the intention of stripping the ball. Rather than just finishing the sack, their style forces offenses into mistakes. And their energy makes those mistakes multiply quickly. For the Eagles, that means no careless tosses in the flat, no lazy ball carriage. No slow developing plays that hinge on perfect timing. It has to be crisp, sharp, smart football because Chicago feeds on anything less. And on a short week where timing and practice is limited, the challenge grows even bigger. This is where the quarterback's leadership becomes essential in games like this. The offense has to play with complete clarity, the pocket awareness has to be precise, the reads have to be clean. The ball has to come out on time. There cannot be hesitation against a defense that is constantly hunting for a punch-out or a tip drill interception. And beyond the mechanics, the quarterback has to keep the offense settled emotionally. He has to slow the game down for everyone else, set the tempo with his decisions, and show that even with key injuries and a tough defense across the field, this offense can still operate at a high level. The best quarterbacks do more than throw passes. They create order when everything around them feels unstable, and Philadelphia needs that kind of presence more than ever this week. As for the run game, it becomes even more important without Devonta. The Eagles need to impose their physicality early, force Chicago's defenders to hesitate just slightly, and keep the chains moving in manageable increments. When the ground game works, the entire playbook opens, the play action becomes sharper, the RPO looks become more dangerous, and the linebackers are forced to creep downhill, giving the receivers just enough breathing room to win. But the problem is consistency. Some weeks the run game looks like a sledgehammer. Other weeks it looks disconnected and predictable. The Eagles cannot afford the latter, not against a team that is more than comfortable attacking one-dimensional offenses. The blocking has to be clean, the cuts decisive, and the commitment unwavering. Running the ball isn't just about yards this week. It's about controlling the emotional rhythm of the game and keeping Chicago's playmakers off balance on the other side of the ball. The most intriguing storyline remains how the Eagles will handle Chicago's offense now that their own defense is as close to full strength as it has been in weeks. With Adoree Jackson back, the secondary instantly gains stability. With Reed Blankenship returning, the communication tightens and the back end becomes much more secure. And with Sidney Brown stepping into a bigger role, the defense adds an unpredictable element that could either be a spark or a source of stress. What Fangio needs from him is discipline. What he wants is physicality without chaos. If Sidney can harness both, he becomes a valuable asset. If not, Chicago will find ways to exploit him. That is the balance this defense has to manage. The front seven also plays a significant role here. Chicago's offensive line has improved, but they can still be shaken by consistent pressure. The key will be collapsing the pocket while containing the quarterback's escape lanes. Williams thrives when he can extend plays, force defenders to chase him, and create explosive moments out of broken structure. The Eagles cannot allow that. The rush has to be coordinated. The tackles cannot crash the far inside. The edges cannot get too deep. The linebackers have to spy at the right moments. It is the type of job that demands discipline, teamwork, and relentless effort. When the Eagles rush as a unit rather than as individuals, they are at their most dangerous. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. The NFL world is buzzing after shocking comments reportedly made by Jalen Carter have left the Philadelphia Eagles scrambling behind closed doors. Sources close to the situation claim that the young defensive powerhouse didn't just speak his mind, he may have crossed a line that has the entire franchise in disbelief. Team insiders describe a mix of anger, frustration, and utter astonishment at what's being called an unprecedented breach of locker room protocol. According to whispers from league insiders, Carter's remarks were not aimed at opponents or the media, but rather, they allegedly struck at the heart of the Eagles' locker room culture. It's one thing to have confidence, it's another to potentially undermine the team in public, said one anonymous source familiar with the franchise's internal dynamics. The statement has reportedly prompted several team leaders to hold urgent meetings, trying to contain the fallout before it reaches the wider media. Fans on social media are already reacting, with reactions ranging from disbelief to support. Some suggest that Carter's candor reflects the fiery competitiveness he's known for, while others fear it could signal a rift that might destabilize the Eagles' locker room chemistry. Coaches are reportedly walking a tightrope, balancing the need to address the comments without drawing even more attention to them, while teammates are said to be quietly voicing their concerns, adding fuel to the fire. Insiders hint that Carter's statement might also have been misinterpreted or blown out of proportion. But the mere fact that it's being discussed at this level indicates how seriously the Eagles are taking it. Analysts speculate that this could have ripple effects on the team's strategy, morale, and even upcoming game plans. The Eagles' front office is keeping a tight lid on official responses, leaving fans and pundits alike to speculate wildly as the rumor mill churns. One thing is clear, Jalen Carter has once again proven that he's a player whose words can create as much heat as his on-field dominance. The NFL landscape watches closely, waiting to see whether this situation blows over or escalates into one of the most talked about controversies of the season. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.